Is China trying to provoke a verbal conflict with India in the middle of the election? How else will you explain what's going on? This weekend, while most of you were perhaps de-stressing, preparing for the week ahead, China was preparing for a verbal conflict with India. It was firing rhetorical bombs. On Saturday, China, quote-unquote, renamed 30 places in Arunachal Pradesh. I say quote-unquote because Arunachal or parts of Arunachal are not China's to rename. Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India, just like it always has been. But you see, this fact does not sit well with China. Beijing believes in and desperately tries to impose its alternate reality, one where Arunachal Pradesh is supposedly a part of Tibet and by extension a part of China. In fact, Beijing calls Arunachal Pradesh Zhangnan. On Saturday, China's Ministry of Civil Affairs published a list of what it calls standardized names, and on it were the names of 11 areas of Arunachal Pradesh, 12 mountains, 4 rivers, 1 lake, a mountain pass, and a piece of land, we are being told. Which are these places and mountains? We don't know. A Hong Kong-based media house that had access to the list reports that the names were given in Chinese characters, Tibetan and Pinyin, the Roman alphabet version of Mandarin Chinese. Let me just read out for you what this report quotes the Chinese ministry as saying. In accordance with the relevant provisions of the State Council on the Management of Geographical Names, we, in conjunction with the relevant departments, have standardized some of the geographical names in Zhangnan of China. Unquote. This is not a first, not even a second. China is a habitual offender cum provocateur. Beijing has published at least 3 such lists in the last 7 years. The first one was published in 2017. It had 6 names. In 2021, another list was published. This one had the names of 15 places. The third list was published in 2023, and this one had names of 11 places. China wrongly and absurdly claims that naming Chinese places in foreign languages harms China's territorial claims and sovereignty rights. What about places that are not Chinese? What is this overdrive to claim to rename foreign territories? There is a word for it, and it's called aggression. What China is basically trying to do is abuse the undefined border. India and China share a 3,200-kilometer line of actual control. The line is undefined. In March, when the Indian Prime Minister visited Arunachal Pradesh, China decided to start ranting. Prime Minister Modi spent a day in Arunachal Pradesh. The visit was extremely significant because the Prime Minister inaugurated the Sela Tunnel. It is the world's longest twin-lane tunnel, and it is constructed at the elevation of 13,000 feet. The project was built at the cost of 825 crore rupees. This tunnel provides an all-weather connectivity to Tawang, which borders China. It also cuts down the travel time, which means this tunnel enables faster deployment of weapons, soldiers, and military equipment to the border. China is struggling to digest this boost to India's defense preparedness. So Beijing is acting out. And right after the Prime Minister's visit, China said, and I'm quoting, Zhangnan area is Chinese territory, quote unquote. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Wang Wenbin, added, and I'm quoting again, India has no right to arbitrarily develop the area of Zhangnan in China. India's relevant moves will only complicate the boundary question and disrupt the situation in the border areas between the two countries, quote unquote. Look at what China said last week. Zhangnan in the eastern sector has always been China's territory, quote unquote, adding, China had all along exercised effective administrative jurisdiction over the area, quote unquote, until India's illegal occupation, quote unquote. Whom exactly is China trying to manipulate with these lies is the question. In 1 month, China has spoken about Arunachal Pradesh 5 times. The question is, what exactly is China trying to do except provoke India through its absurd and bizarre claims? China clearly is threatened by India's border infrastructure, but how does it help to start a verbal conflict in the middle of the Indian general election? How does China benefit from it? Except, it gets to keep the Indian authorities engaged, perhaps even disturbed. Remarks made by the US ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, have been dominating headlines. The comments were made during an interview to news agency ANI. What did he say? Let's get you all the details. Now, as part of a wide-ranging interview, the ambassador spoke about his journey, the US-India relationship, also his commitment towards boosting those ties, among other aspects. Referring to the investigation of the alleged failed assassination plot against Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, the ambassador said that no government or its employee can be involved in the alleged assassination of another country's citizen, which is just an unacceptable red line, quote unquote.
Any country having an active member of their government involved in a second country trying to assassinate one of their citizens. That's, I think, usually a red line for any country. That's a basic issue of sovereignty. That's a basic issue of rights.
Now, in case you weren't aware already, India has designated Gurpatwant Singh Pannu as a terrorist. He enjoys dual citizenship in America and Canada. India and the US are working together in the investigation of the alleged foiled assassination plot against the Khalistani terrorist. Pannu has repeatedly issued threats against India, in fact. Basically, he has openly issued multiple threats to India related to attacks on the Indian Parliament, Air India. So what about these threats? What did the ambassador have to say about them? Referring to the threats issued by Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, Eric Garcetti said that the American system protects free speech, quote unquote, for better or for worse. He also made it clear that an American citizen can be convicted or deported only according to the country's laws.
Our law for an American citizen to be convicted in an American court or to be deported to have a criminal case in another country, it has to meet our law. And so we'll continue working, and if anybody ever says something that steps over that line, and I know it's gotten very close, we will be working together on that.
Now, the thing is, Pannu's threats have caused a lot of concern, not just in India, but also among the members of the Indian-American community. Just for context, you remember how we told you recently that some members of the Indian-American community held a special meeting in America? They met with representatives from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Justice, and the police. Members of the Indian-American community told the US authorities that American soil is being used for terror activities against India. They also spoke about the rise of the Khalistani movement in the US, which of course has been a major concern. Now, following the remarks made by the US ambassador to India in the latest, reacting to the remarks made by the ambassador regarding the quote-unquote red line, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has said that the US ambassador, as an ambassador, will say what he thinks is the position of his government.
The US ambassador, as an ambassador, obviously will say what he thinks is the thinking of his government or the position of his government. I will say what is the position of my government. And the position of my government is that in this particular case, there have been certain information which has been provided to us, which we are investigating. And it is something we are investigating because we believe our own national security interests are involved in that investigation. So as and when we have something to say on that investigation, we would be very glad to speak about it.
So there you have it. India has made its position absolutely clear, and we will be keeping a close eye on how things pan out. Will Delhi be run from jail? I'm asking this question because today the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, It was decided will be in jail until the 15th of April. That's just 4 days before India goes to the polls. Remember, the first phase of the general elections in the country kicks off on the 19th of April. In a move that sparked protest last month, India's financial crime fighting agency, the Enforcement Directorate or the ED, had arrested Kejriwal over graft accusations related to Delhi's liquor policy. He was remanded to ED custody until the 1st of April. As for why his custody was extended, the Enforcement Directorate says that Kejriwal has been non-cooperative in the probe. They say that he gave evasive replies. Opposition parties say that the timing of Kejriwal's arrest shows that the government is denying them a level playing field in the upcoming elections. The BJP denies these charges. The arrest of the high-profile leader had triggered protests in New Delhi and the northern state of Punjab, which is ruled by Kejriwal's party, the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, the party says that their leader has been falsely arrested in a fabricated case. But the BJP has denied political interference. The arrest of the Delhi Chief Minister, meanwhile, has united India's key opposition leaders. And on Sunday, a mega rally was held by the opposition bloc, which is an alliance of 27 opposition parties, including the Aam Aadmi Party. They protested against Arvind Kejriwal's arrest and accused the BJP of seeking to rig the elections. The rally was a massive show of strength where leaders of the major opposition parties pressed for the release of Arvind Kejriwal. And with Kejriwal in jail, his wife Sunita Kejriwal entered the political scene from the dais at the opposition's mega rally. Sunita Kejriwal read out her jailed husband's 6 guarantees for the upcoming elections. They range from promises of zero power cuts, free electricity for the poor, quality education, specialty hospitals, minimum support price for farmers, and most importantly, statehood for Delhi. In her first political speech ever, Sunita Kejriwal said that India stands with the Aam Aadmi Party chief and he cannot be kept in jail forever. The Aam Aadmi Party maintains that Kejriwal will not resign from his post as chief minister. They say he will run the Delhi government from jail. But can he run the government from jail? Ask experts in India and you will get a mix of answers. The answer to that question depends on where the emphasis lies constitutionally. Kejriwal can run the government from the jail, but as far as convention and practicality goes, he cannot. You see, according to the Representation of People's Act 1951, an MLA is disqualified after being convicted of a crime. That means he or she cannot be minister post-conviction. And in Kejriwal's case, he has not been convicted of any crime yet. Therefore, Kejriwal can function as chief minister from jail. But other experts have a different view. Some legal experts say that Kejriwal must resign till at least the probe against him is over. They say that he should step down and nominate someone else from his party to handle the chief minister's post. Long story short, the law of the land allows Kejriwal to function as Delhi chief minister. But legal opinions aside, will this be fair on the electorate? Is it fair for the people of Delhi to have a chief minister who will be preoccupied with fighting the legal battle? So sure, Kejriwal can run Delhi from jail, but just how effective such governance will be, well, that remains to be seen.